This month is Autism Awareness Month. It's a time to bring understanding to a journey that is often unseen. Behind every extraordinary adult is a mother who has cared, advocated, and loved in ways that the world will not fully understand. And today, we honor that journey on the Invisible but Powerful Show.
Welcome to Invisible but Powerful, where heart, soul, and spirit intertwine. This show is about sharing stories of faith, resilience, and transformation to inspire you to uncover, unlock, and unleash the incredible potential God has placed within you. Now, let's get ready for real talk and heart-to-heart conversations on the Invisible but Powerful Show.
Welcome to the Invisible but Powerful Show, where women share stories of faith, resilience, and purpose. I'm your host, Kimberly Kiner, and I'm honoring all the mothers who are carrying and advocating for their child or their adult of special needs. Last year's episode was about mothering extraordinary children, which was our most popular episode, by the way. But I received so many comments about when children become adults. What about the special need adults and those that are on the spectrum? How do we care for them? Well, I'm doing just that on this upcoming episode. So today's episode is entitled Mothering Extraordinary Adults. And I must say, this episode is so very personal for me. As a mother of a special needs, actually young adult now, my son is almost 19, I can say that in some ways it gets a little easier over time. You get to learn, you get to adjust, you get to become more empathetic as you grow with them. But at the same time, there's a different kind of weight that comes with this stage. It doesn't go away. That special need or that condition doesn't go away. And sometimes I still find myself concerned, wondering how he will truly navigate this world as an adult. There are moments where he forgets things, important things, things that he needs to know. And sometimes I wonder, will he truly be okay being on his own? Is he truly ready to be independent like he says he is? And I believe that's something that many mothers carry. Not just the responsibility of today, but the uncertainty of tomorrow. And yet, we keep showing up, we keep loving, and we keep trusting God, even in the unknown. And that's why today's conversation is so meaningful, because I'm joined by a woman who understands this journey in a very real way. Her name is Danielle Pizzone. Danielle is a bridal stylist, entrepreneur, and the founder of She's Giving, a modern consignment and lifestyle brand built around confidence and self-expression. She is also a mother of three, a dedicated special needs mom, navigating the complexities of parenting, co-parenting, and advocacy with honesty and resilience. Danielle brings a unique voice that blends real-life experience with style, humor, and emotional depth, making her a relatable and inspiring perspective for women balancing motherhood, identity, and personal growth. Please help me welcome this extraordinary woman, Danielle Pizzone. Hello, Danielle.
Hello. Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, I thank you for agreeing to talk about this very sensitive topic about adults who are special. I call them extraordinary adults. So I like to start with your journey as a mother. Can you share your journey as a special needs mom and how it has shaped you today?
Yeah, I think that it was definitely a journey to say the least. So my journey becoming a mother was, I just always knew that I wanted to be a mother, regardless of whether I was married or if I was single or whatever I did in my future, I knew that I wanted to have children. So of course, when I got married, I was immediately thinking about, well, when are we going to plan to have children? Let's just do it. Let's get it done. We got to plan it out. We got to do it. Let's have kids, because I was so excited. And so when I did find out that I was pregnant, I happened to just kind of go about the normal kind of planning and going to the doctor and going to the visits. And then I went to the doctor visit at 3 months, and then they saw 2 babies in there. And so for me, it was a shock, to say the least. And anybody who has twins can relate that you are not expecting, because I was closing my eyes really, really tight. And I was like, do you hear a heartbeat? I'm not going to look up until you hear a heartbeat. Do you hear a heartbeat? And they would go, yeah, we hear 2 heartbeats. And they kind of, that was a little
Wow.
nutso. So then you're not anticipating, you're anticipating more for the twins thing to be quote unquote wrong. You don't, when you're pregnant, and especially 18 years ago, maybe even before, people weren't really talking about having a gestational child with special needs. I mean, autism was around and it always has been, but that wasn't, it wasn't autism, and you weren't always fearful. If I have a boy, because mainly, boys are susceptible, as they say, but there's a lot of girls in this world that have autism as well. But boys are the main focus. And you think about just being a mom, you're not thinking about if my child's going to have autism. Now, people do think of such, right? So I was just thinking about being a mother and how I was going to do. And I was more worried about the twins going to term. That's really what I was worried about. And when I did give birth, I, for myself, noticed right away that my child was different, but also because I had twins. So, for example, my daughter looked like she was a little bit more full term, and he looked a little bit more preemie, and he was having a little bit more of a hard time latching on or feeding because I was trying to breastfeed. And there was just different things and characteristics about him that I could tell that something was quote unquote off. But, that early on, and in general, doctors and family are like, oh, he's fine. You've never been a mom before, right? So I don't really think that you're noticing anything particularly wrong, right? And that went on for some time. So it did take a while for me to convince even the doctors that I noticed that there was a difference, because they were more so comparing the children as twins than they were comparing their developmental level. And I did go to the pediatrician, and I was noticing he wasn't kicking his feet out. He wasn't pushing off the mat like they want him to. He wasn't doing all the things. And I said, isn't this indicative to something going on? No. He's a boy. Sometimes they're a little bit slower than the girls. And I was getting so frustrated because, as a mother, we know. We know everything. We don't know necessarily good from bad, but we know right from wrong, and we know when something's off. And I really do wish that intuition was taken a little bit more seriously. So the beginning journey was a bit frustrating, to say the least, because having 2 children that were growing not similar, even if they were twins, and me really seeing that difference. Sometimes in autism, you see a regression. I didn't see a regression. I saw it right away. And I just started from there. It's like the minute I was finally listened to and the doctors were like, okay, we see what you see, then it was my turn to kind of take control. Yeah.
So at what point did the doctors, or what age did the doctor say, oh, okay, we're kind of seeing what you're saying here?
At that stage of a child, when they're starting to smile and they're starting to, I think it's like that 3 to 6 month old stage where they really should be doing particular movements or grasping or tracking or doing those things. I think that's when they were starting to kind of take me a little bit more seriously. Now, I think they knew that something was up, but I don't think that the doctors professionally wanted to say anything or speculate or scare me. But I'm the type of person that I want you to give it to me straight, like right away, so that I can take action and start doing whatever I have to do. If your child is born with a sickness, you're not going to wait it out and see, if everything's going to be okay. You're going to ask for all the different things that they can do in case this sickness gets worse. And then you're actually going to be prepared. We talk about being prepared as parents.
Right. Because we did talk about that, because your son is now 18, 19?
18.
Yes, 18. And my son, he will be 19 this year. So I totally understand when you talk about being prepared and trying to protect your young adult, not a child anymore, but now a young adult, and trying to make sure that he or she's not overwhelmed by all that's coming at him or her, all that's happening in regards to what the world is presenting at the time, or how they're reacting to their behavior.
Right.
So yeah.
Or they don't always know. I mean, depending on the child's developmental age, or, as opposed to their gestational age, or what their disability or abilities may be. I think that we worry about our children developing or what their concerns are, but it depends on the child's developmental level. And I think if we have a higher functioning child or teenager or ability child, they might understand more about being talked about, or they might understand more about not fitting in. Whereas my child, who is what they would consider a bit lower functioning, is not very aware of what it is like to fit in. He's unaware of social cues, or unaware of what it even means to be left out, because he's in his own world. But a child or a teenager that's higher functioning, like what you see on Love on the Spectrum or on TV, where they're able to, be social, they are possibly worried about feeling left out. Or maybe they're not, because if some of their disabilities are social cues, they don't understand. But we as parents, or we as adults, because we know, we are then fearing for them. And so we have to really be careful on what's scaring us as opposed to what's scaring them. You have to be able to, differentiate when you should impose on their thoughts, because they might have not even a clue that people were looking at them different, or listening to them differently, or judging them the way that you assume they're being judged.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you say that. With my son, he was more high functioning, but he can feel people's emotions. So he was also an empath. So that's what made him super sensitive to how he was being looked at, or he can hear people talking about him, so he was very aware of that. But yes, there is a difference. But do you wish that, or actually, what do you wish more people understood about adults that are on the spectrum?
I think that they have to understand that the parents of the adult children on the spectrum are having a hard time, right? So if you're out, and it doesn't matter, I'm speaking for everyone because it's true, right? Because adult disabilities are harder to manage as a parent than when your child is younger. And I don't care who you are, it's definitely that. We can all agree, whoever's going to listen to this or watch this, if you are a parent of a special needs child that is an adult or teenager or approaching adulthood, it doesn't ever get easier. So the people on the outside that are seeing a moment or observing the fact that your child is quote unquote different, unless you are asked to be a part of that moment, you should never judge or think because when you're out and about in public and you see an adult misbehaving, or sees a child that is having a tantrum that's older or laying on the floor, these things that you might see of a special needs individual, it's very clear that that person is a special needs individual. If it's not clear and a parent has not asked you to step in, don't, right? We tend to, as people, get very, we think we're being so sweet, or we think we're saying something. It's like when your child had no hair when they were born and they're like, what a cute little boy. And you're like, it's a girl. And, and it's just like, just shut up, right? Like, you just want to be like, I didn't ask you, right? And you think you're being so kind and nice. And sometimes if you're questioning it, just be quiet, because you don't really know what that person is going through. And I think, we all want to interact. We're told socialize, be kind to everybody, do everything. But I think if you have an inkling that this might be a moment that this parent is having a hard time, usually in a moment, it's like, do you need help, or do you need, no, we don't want, just leave me, I can do this. You know what I mean? It's maybe, so I think I just wish that society would stop educating only on one type of spectrum. And I think that, we're seeing in the media, we're seeing everything where autism is two ways. You're either seeing a child who's totally off kilter, right? Nonverbal, sitting in a chair, stimming, which is what the repetitive movements or back and forth or not talking or becoming very enthusiastic in a way, right? Or the largest end of the spectrum. Okay. Or you're seeing the other end, which is Love on the Spectrum, or these shows that are focusing on these individuals and adults, because autism's like the cool thing now. Everybody's neurodivergent, everybody has autism, and everybody has ADHD, and everybody has, but it shouldn't be cool to be neurodivergent. And I don't want individuals that really are having a hard time to be talking to someone and be like, well, I'm autistic too. Or my child's autistic too. Or if I'm talking to another parent, yeah, my child's autistic too. And I don't want to have to say, well, how autistic are they? Right? Like, because I bet I got you beat, girl. I don't want to say that. Like, what number autism on 1 to 10 scale? Because TikTok and all this social media is like, it's cool to be autistic. It is cool to be autistic and have an ability for different things, but we need to focus on what's really going on here. And to stop making it this thing, and I support every type of ability and difference in this world, but I think we need to be a little bit more mindful how we're using the word I'm autistic, right? Because there really are people who are suffering. Yeah.
I agree. I have to say that people would say with my son having the ADHD, I didn't see it as cool, but that's all I heard. Oh yeah, I have ADD. I have ADD. And it's not a joke. Right. I'm like, this isn't funny.
Right.
This is a real condition. And just because a teacher would say, oh, you know what, you can't sit straight, or you can't sit still, you have ADD.
That's a good point. I really don't like when they say things like, I'm sorry, I'm so ADD. If you were ADD, or you were clinically having a moment in which you were having a flare or you were ADD, that doesn't just come on because it's a Monday. That means that as soon as you wake up, you're ADD, and as soon as you go to bed, you're ADD or ADHD or OCD or autistic. You can't wish it away, and your brain is consistently having those complications that are alongside. Now, you can bring it to fruition in videos and reels and social media but don't say just because you're rubbing your feet together at night before you go to bed, that means that you are ADD. These are the signs to know my girlfriend's ADD or my boyfriend's ADD, because then it kind of negates the people whom are suffering, right? And have it extreme and have to take medication for it, and not medication that, different types of medication and different formulas of medication and different trials of medication, so I understand. And we're still learning about every single thing. So how can TikTok and social media have it down pat when we're still not even understanding if there's a difference between ADHD and autism anyway, or whatever the case may be? It's a processing issue. It has nothing to do with if you can clean your house on time or, vacuum and then also brush your teeth or whatever these videos that I'm seeing. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting you mentioned Love on the Spectrum, because that recently came out.
So yes.
And I don't know, I did see the first episode. Wanted to know your thoughts on that. I don't know, it was a little difficult for me to watch.
Yeah, I think that
I don't know about you.
Well, for me, it's funny. So for me, it's hard to watch because, again, we have all of these shows with people whom are autistic. We have Good Doctor, or whatever that doctor show is, where he's a doctor and autistic. We have, Love on the Spectrum, where these individuals who are clearly on the spectrum, and I don't negate the fact that they are, because they do show all different abilities. But a child like mine whose mental capacity is one of a 4-year-old, okay, he might, on the inside, he's not going to tell me he wants to date. I'm definitely not going to have him dating somebody down the street. That's a little odd, right? And so it is lovely that they have this type of a show for individuals whom are higher functioning, but then what is the show for individuals that are not higher functioning, that long for love. They're all documentaries, right? They're not reality shows. So it does kind of, I do watch shows like that. And this brings me back to being a mom of twins. When my daughter started to walk, and I'm not saying this in a mean way, but I'm going to make a giggle. I wanted to push her down. Stop walking, because I don't want you to walk yet, because your brother's not walking yet. So no, she's not. Everyone close your eyes. She didn't walk, and like kind of push her down, right? And I think I still do that to her, to this day. It's like kind of, I kind of want her to slow down. Now that they're 18, of course, she's way surpassed and is in college and, fully functioning and has no spectrum at all. But what I'm saying is that like, I don't want to watch other people always being successful. And I know, and listen, we're people, right? And if you're suffering, it's just like if somebody's told that they're sick and two people have the same disease and one person doesn't make it and the other person does, you don't want to hear about how the other person made it because your family member or your person that you're loving is not, right? So I love the show. I think that it's very, very cute. I think that the people in it are very cute, but I unfortunately don't appreciate that they're putting, again, autism in this box and making people believe that that's autism only. And then we're watching the videos online or Facebook or whatever of these kids tantruming and these parents crying and saying that the state or the world's not comforting their child. So then we're like, well, then people are thinking, well, thank God my child doesn't have autism like that, because we're not being able to show the delight of the things that my child is doing because we're more concerned about who's dating who's breaking up with who, what their superpower is. And not every child with autism has a superpower. They don't, they might have things that they're good at, but it's not necessarily that they can paint a picture, like Picasso, or they can do a word search with their eyes closed, or they can, date a person and sing a song or play a musical instrument or be a rocket scientist or be a doctor. That's not always what they're able to do. So, and we can't obviously show in life, every show, everything we watch obviously cannot depict everybody's life. I totally understand that. But you can watch a horror movie and you can watch a drama and you can watch a comedy and you can watch everything. So I just wish they would tread a little bit more lightly when introducing autism as expectation or like, you're watching,
Yeah, I like I said, I saw the first episode and I was just a little uncomfortable watching it. I just feel like it was more of a spectator.
Yeah.
It was like, we're putting you in this limelight and this is what autism is about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
Because some of it, I mean, these are real conditions.
Absolutely.
These are real conditions. And it seems like you're just kind of putting people's sensitive natures out there.
Right. Yeah, so I think that when it comes to Love on the Spectrum, they do sign off their rights, right? But I do think that, look at where they are. These parents and everybody's a little popular right now, right? They're gaining faith. They're able to see, they're on red carpets. They're being sent to Disney World and all of this. And, and this goes down to, I say this for children that are not on the spectrum. I'm very annoyed at how society is showing that being an influencer or being in the public eye is what's going to get you to where you need to be. And they think that being popular or being an influence on people this is why we're losing jobs, right? The kids are thinking, I don't have to do anything. I can just go do Uber, or I can do DoorDash, or I can go online and be an Instagram influencer. I can play a video game and zoom it in. And I think for special needs parents, we work so hard on interventing our child and doing interventions to teach them tasks such as folding laundry, putting, a tray on, on somebody's place setting at a restaurant. We're trying to teach them these, what they call CBI in schools, and these adult tasks. And yet we have the world showing, well, let's just get you on a show and tell your story, and then you won't have to work a day in your life. And they're seeing, and you're seeing this, and you're seeing these people from Love on Spectrum or just anywhere on the red carpet or on a podcast with their parent, and then we're sitting here with other abilities and children with ability that, and we're still trying to get on waiting lists for doctors, and we're still trying to get to where we need to be. I mean, and I am talking all over the place because there's so many things that we can touch when it comes to the spectrum of the spectrum, right? That's why they call it a spectrum. So if it is a spectrum, then why are we only showing two ends? We're showing either the super low end of the spectrum or the super, and we're not. And if LGBTQ plus can be a plus, why can't we be a plus and understand that there's so many different calibers of being quote unquote different? You know, in the LGBTQ community, there's gay, there's lesbian, there's trans, there's poly, there's all kinds of different things. But when you're saying that somebody's autistic, it's just they're on the spectrum, they're autistic. Is your child verbal or nonverbal? Well, that shouldn't matter because there's so many other things that are involved with autism: ADHD, OCD, ODD, low muscle tone, verbality, not verbality, feeding issues, gut issues, not just mental issues, physical issues. There's children that were born who showed spectrum-like behavior right away, and then there's children who regressed. There's, you see videos of people talking. Not every autistic child was talking and then regressed. Not every autistic child was hyperactive and then misbehaved in class. Some were very quiet. This is what we should be educating the community about. If that, why be a spectacle? Who cares? Why do we have to be a spectacle? And why do we have to even show ourselves as, why can't it just be a dating show?
So I know you were talking about, the show and how you wish it wouldn't be more like a spectacle sport. And there are some women or mothers who are suffering in silence. In the Invisible but Powerful book, I share real life stories, testimonies, and devotional lessons that will help women navigate through this thing called life. Check out this promo.
Have you ever felt like life's challenges have left you searching for hope? Invisible but Powerful isn't just a devotional. It's a lifeline for women navigating their toughest moments. Filled with heartfelt stories, scriptures, and reflections, this book is inspiring women to rediscover their strength and faith. It's time to uncover your inner strength, unlock your potential, and unleash a life filled with purpose. Scan the QR code now, or go to Amazon.com to purchase and begin your journey today. You don't have to face life's challenges alone. Let Invisible but Powerful guide you every step of the way.
Welcome back to the Invisible but Powerful Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Kiner, and today I am with Miss Danielle Pizzone, and we're talking about mothering extraordinary adults. Now, Danielle, I want to talk about balance here, because you're an entrepreneur, you're a stylist. How have you maintained balance as a mother and as an entrepreneur?
So this is not necessarily something that comes naturally. I mean, being an advocate and being somebody who's a little bit more outspoken, if you will, that made me a natural advocate, but I never had to be an advocate for my own child or a special needs child. So I think balance, I had to kind of fight for it and realize that when I was not balanced, the only way that you know you're balanced is when you're not, right? You have to fall before you can pick yourself up. So, I'm a type of person whom I benefit from being a busy person, and that's when I do my best. And there's other people who need to slow down and take time, and that's how they're balanced. I'm more balanced if I'm a better mom when I have 50 things on my plate than if you give me a whole day to do something and I know that I have to bake cookies and I'll just wait till 8 o'clock to bake the cookies. But why not, right? But if I know that I have 50 things on my plate, I've made 20 cookies by yesterday because I knew that I had to plan because I had to have the cookies done. But if you give me a whole day to do the cookies, I'm going to take the whole day to do the cookies. So that's kind of how you realize to balance your life. And I fell very hard before I was able to realize that I was good at being, an advocate or somebody for my child. I went through a very long, deep depression. I was seen by a lot of professionals. I actually went to an inpatient program in which I had to do the work. And I went through a couple programs because I got sad, right? And sometimes you don't know you're sad until you let yourself feel that you're sad. You're just going to keep going being sad until you allow yourself to kind of hit to the bottom and be really sad or really anxious or really hurt. And then you're able to do the work to get better, to balance your life, and realize that's the only reason I knew that I had to be a busy person, is because I did the work and talked with therapists or talked with individuals or got help and asked for help. And they said, well, Danielle, the reason you're so sad is because at this moment you're not doing anything. You've quit your job. You've sat home with, at this point I had another child now, a baby. You're worried about your son. You're worried about your daughter overpowering your son. And this is all I was thinking about, was only my home life. And it wasn't like the regular 9 to 5, right? Because I've always done all the things. And once I slowed down, I realized that wasn't okay for me. When I slowed down, I got depressed. When I didn't have something to do or a mission or something that I had to focus on besides my son, right? Other things to keep me busy,
Right.
then I realized that I went downhill. So balance came only through knowledge and learning about myself and what I needed. So my balance could look very chaotic to somebody else's balance. Your balance and my balance are going to look very different. My life could be like, well, when do you ever sleep? But that's balance to me because I'm able to consistently be on task. But somebody else might need balance in a different way. They might need a whole day to be able to get one task done. And I don't benefit from that. Yeah.
So how do you take care of yourself? Like we talk about, we pour into others, but we seldom pour into ourselves. Do you find yourself doing that as well, or you take time for yourself?
I think I've just recently started taking time for myself. I don't think I'm there yet. I think that I'm still learning how to take time for myself, because when people say that, I always laugh at them. And you hear it. You can hear it from your therapist. You can hear it from your family. You can hear it from AI, right? AI even tells you, hey, but what did you do for you? And I'm like, shut up, AI. Like, you don't know me. I'm fine. Right? But like, everybody's telling you to relax. And I'm like, you relax. So I don't think
it's really bad when AI is telling you to relax.
It's like, that sounds great, but what are you doing for you? And I'm like, that's not what I asked you. I asked you how to make cookies. I didn't ask you how I'm taking care of myself today, So I think I'm still learning that it is okay, but I'm also learning on what I like. People tell you to meditate or people tell you to do yoga.
Yes.
That's not my thing.
Yeah.
I sit and do yoga and I'm thinking about what everybody's wearing. I'm like, those are cute pants. This one, it smells in here. It's hot. I'm not going to do yoga. When I'm meditating, I can't woo-saw or close my eyes. There's no meditating. But there's different ways to meditate that I've learned. You can be fully aware and meditate.
Yeah.
You can do the meditation. I started doing it before I went to sleep. So now I have this one guy that I listen to. My husband has to do it. I don't care. He's fallen asleep to him too. And, we're meditating. But that's kind of where I think I lack. Nobody's perfect, right? And I don't say that I'm perfect, but I am, advocating well balanced. I feel like I'm doing a lot of things, but I think I'm still learning on when I'm not the caregiver, when I'm taking time for myself. And I think I need to continue to learn that. Yeah.
I wanted to share this picture because you talked about this earlier, and I wanted you to share. Tell me about this picture. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this picture is very recent. This picture was only a few months ago. And I got remarried. So it was a very wonderful day. And, it's exactly what it looks like. It kind of looks like a love fest. But what you don't see, and this is where social media comes in, is that, Aiden's hugging me to regulate, right? He came over to me. He was a little overstimulated. And he came over to me to kind of talk with me and regulate with me and hug me. And he is indeed happy, but he's regulating. It was very loud. It was a lot. And then my other two kind of like saw the moment, because we are a very loving family. And they came in and they're hugging. And then we're all just hugging and they're just happy. He's happy. I'm happy. He's still there, and we happened to get it on camera. So he tends to hold on to me or hug me like that a lot. It's his way of regulating, but it did turn into more of kind of like a love fest. So,
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
What do you find are the challenges now that Aiden he's now a young adult, as opposed to when he was 5? What do you find? Because you stated that it doesn't get easier.
Yeah. No.
What did you find as a challenge?
Because when you have a child whose abilities are a little bit more immature, or they're not up to a gestational age, the child's mind might stay at 5, but their body is going to continue to grow into that adult. And the tantrums are still going to be 5-year-old tantrums, but the body is then going to be an 18, 19, 20, maybe 30-year-old person. And I think that, his tantrums look very toddler like, but then in an adult body could look quite violent because his muscle and his strength is one of a man. So he could kick and push and scream on the floor and do all of the things, or not want to get out of the car, or not want to take his seatbelt off, or say no. But instead of it coming from a child, you're hearing a strong no, you're hearing a man scream, you're seeing a man push another individual, or maybe even something in front of them, a cart at a supermarket, or a table at your home. And instead of it being a toddler, it's a man doing it. So it's going to be much worse. And I think as children, because our children are always our children, but as our children who are of any ability that is not one of their gestational age has a moment, it gets worse. I don't care how much therapy, I don't care how many meds you give, I don't care how many everything. That childlike maturity from whatever is holding them back is going to then be seen as an adult, which is why, it's very hard that at 18, you have to decide, is your child going to be able, like you're going through, take care of themselves? Or do you have to become the guardian of that child because you feel that your child is not going to be able to make decisions for themselves? So I think that it gets harder because the world has not yet adapted to how are we going to help the family decide what's next. Everybody falls under the same thing, and at 18 you have to go and you have to prove whether your child's in a wheelchair, whether your child's verbal, nonverbal, whether your child is capable, non-capable of holding a job, is if your child's going to be emancipated or if your child's going to need a guardian. And again, I think that there's so many things that have evolved and we're getting left behind because you get the early intervention, you get the therapies, you get the ABA, you get the respite, you get all of the things when your child is within a certain age bracket. And then once your child has hit another age bracket, yes, there's things in place like DDD, perform care, things like that, but they can't keep up because everybody's forgetting that all of these children are going to grow unless there is a magic pill that can keep them at 8 years old or whatever age you in your brain think that your child is capable. Then we can't stop it. Their hormones, everything. So, and all of these things that are taking place in your normal children are still going to happen to your children who have these roadblocks. It still happens. We are all human. And I think that's what people are having a hard time understanding. I think they're putting them in this box. And if you have a mental illness, it's the same medication. If you have, they're using medication for bipolar people and individuals who really very much need it, but they're also taking those types of characteristics for somebody who has a mood disorder or who's bipolar, and they're giving those medications to children like mine whom are autistic and might not have the same characteristics of somebody who is bipolar. And both of them need to be helped, but there's no pill for the spectrum of in which a child with autism is having problems. And we're so convinced that we have to change the child for the environment instead of changing the environment for the child. So everybody wants everybody to be medicated so that child doesn't have a moment or a tantrum as an adult or it becomes a problem, instead of realizing that you're not going to be able to change every single autistic person in a room or every ADHD adult in a room to fit the environment. We sometimes have to have environments that are a little more conducive to them. And a medication's a whole nother story. It's very scary, but I'm still, if there was a world that was perfect, it would be East versus West would be together, right? I believe that we medicate when we don't feel well, but I also believe that there's other approaches that we can do in order to not have to medicate, because there's no magic pill,
There's no magic pill. I agree with that. Because when my son was younger, there was all of these different types of medication, and they're all different. Yeah. They're all different, and none of them helped him with focus. They just kind of kept him very subdued. but he still couldn't focus.
Because
So
they're
I'm
not
like,
trying to change, they're trying to change him for the environment. So we need your child calmer. So we're going to give your child this pill so that they don't create a ruckus, so that everybody else can focus. So your child keeps other people in a room from focusing. And if we can't fix that, we're going to have that person be, subdued. And then we're going to make sure. But what we really need to do is we give ramps for people who have wheelchairs. We give, and it doesn't just mean fidget toys. There's kids that are autistic that don't want to fidget. You can give my child a fidget toy. He's not going to use a fidget spinner. He doesn't even care about it. He would throw it out. He doesn't care.
right,
That's not what I'm
right.
talking about. And you can't learn about everybody's needs. But I think that it comes down to that. I think it needs to be just okay and acceptable to do things the way you do for your family that works for you. And doctors and professionals and everybody else can give suggestions, but not make you feel ostracized if you're not doing one thing over another. So then you don't care about your well-being of your child because you don't want to give him this pill. No, that's not the case. It's just that I'm pushing back. If my child, God forbid, had a disease in which they needed a pill to survive, or if they needed to be on dialysis or chemotherapy, I would not keep that from them.
You would do it.
But if there's a pill that I'm not quite sure is going to cure them, then I have every right to speak up and not give that pill. And I hate that we have to have this conversation, because this is what every parent of a child with special needs, regardless of whatever special needs you have, once your child becomes an adult, it will get worse. It doesn't get better, because their hardships are going to become bigger. I don't care if they're the highest end of to the lowest.
I think, I can only speak for my son who has the ADHD and has the dyslexia and everything like that. Whereas as he got older, I would say it got easier for me because he was, especially after he graduated, it was easier because I was no longer getting the phone calls from the school every single day about his behavior and things like that. So it started getting easier in that sense. But
it's harder because you're worried now. So you don't know if he's saying the right thing at the counter, or if he's sitting at work behaving or not spacing out. You're worrying more, so it becomes harder for the parent. I'm not saying it's harder for the child all the time, because the children don't realize. It's harder for the parent because then your worries become they become bigger. Right? You're worried that they're not being accepted when you're not watching. And this goes for all children, but even more for children who have these abilities, right?
Right, exactly. And this is where I had to learn how to not worry so much and learn how to put it in God's hands, because that's where I'm like, God, you know everything. You know it all. You're in control of everything. So I need to just place him in your hands and know that you're going to take care of this situation, because I can't be everywhere. I can't be at his job while he's performing. Even though, when I hear from his managers, they're like, oh, he's great. He acts totally different when he's at work. He's very respectable. And I'm like, is this my same son? Right. Seriously? Yeah. But he does act differently when he's outside of the home. And he's like, oh, I just do that because I'm at home and I don't want to listen. So that gives me some comfort. It gives me some comfort. But then it's still with driving and, working full time now, it does bring just a little bit of trepidation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can just totally understand.
But you've also helped to develop that pathway by, before he got the job or during that moment, telling the people in which he's working with and paving that for him. He's not going to come in and say, hey, by the way, before I start this job, these are the things that you should look out for. If I'm doing this, if I'm doing this, that means that I'm not understanding. Or if I'm, if I don't come to work one day because I have a stomach ache, it's not really because I have a stomach ache. Like, they don't know to look for those things. So you, as an advocate, have prepared the managers so that when they tell you, you're giving them the worst case scenario and they're saying, well, that hasn't happened yet, because you're able to pave the way as a parent for your child. And that's what us as special needs parents have to do. And people who don't have a child that's of special needs, like my daughter, who's in college, I'm not going to call before and say, well, sometimes Aubrey gets a little bit, sassy. And when she's sassy, it means she needs to drink more water or whatever, because you're not able, or it's not accepted, because then you're a Karen, or you're an annoyance, or you're a meddler, right? But if you say that you're a special needs mom, they're like, oh, okay, because they have to tread lightly, and you can advocate for them. So I think we tend to walk into a room before we walk into a room as a special needs parent, call before the birthday party happens, call before the interview, or after they get the job, be like, hi, my son just got a job with you and I need to tell you he has ADHD. Don't tell him I told you that he has ADHD, but if he gets really mad, here's my phone number. You know what I mean? But like a child who's quote unquote not of the special needs would be so pissed if you did that, right? And we want to do it with everybody,
Yeah.
but as a special, I'm programmed to do so. I do it for my husband sometimes at the supermarket. I'll come to the cash register before he does, and I go, if he doesn't know how to press the button, you got to tell him how to press the green button. They're like, okay, ma'am.
No,
Because I'm so controlling. You tend to do it amongst everything now. Now everything has to be controlled, right?
wow. Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah.
So, yes, these are all good topics. And for those of you who are walking this journey, who's looking for that safe space to talk about topics like this, we have an IBP monthly chat where we meet every third Tuesday on Zoom. And this is a safe space that will help us to reflect and grow together. Check out this promo.
Do you ever feel like you're carrying life's weight on your shoulders? At the IBP monthly chat, you don't have to do it alone. This is your space. A space where real women come together to share, connect, and encourage each other. Whether you're navigating challenges, seeking clarity, or simply craving authentic connection, the IBP monthly chat is where faith and friendship meet. We meet virtually on Zoom, and each session is a safe place to open your heart and discuss God's word as it relates to our lives. Here, you'll find strength, understanding, and the reminder that you are never alone. Scan the QR code to subscribe and be notified of our next session. Let's grow together, one conversation at a time.
Welcome back to the Invisible but Powerful Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Kiner, and I am here with Danielle Pizzone talking about mothering extraordinary adults. Now, Danielle, I know that there are several mothers. We talk about the spectrum. We talk about special needs. There are several mothers who are walking this path right now, and they're trying to adjust as their children are now adults. What would you say to that mother who's walking this path right now?
I think the most important thing is don't try to walk it alone. If you found out that your child, regardless of age, was sick, you wouldn't not go to the doctor and try to do it yourself. Or maybe you would, and that's the wrong choice. You have to ask for help. You have to speak up when you feel that something's lacking. You have to see, because there are groups and support out there, regardless of what you're going through, that have gone through the same thing, and whether or not they help you don't have an expectation is basically what I'm saying. Is you have to continue to get support for yourself and your family and not think that it's just useless, because what you're going through is going to be different, just like you hear everywhere that the person next to you is going through. And your bad might not be somebody else's worst, but for you, it's your worst. So don't judge, well, at least my child, and I'm going to say something off kilter, at least my child doesn't have a deadly disease. At least my child doesn't have this. It doesn't matter. If you're suffering, or if you feel your child or your adult child is not prepared, or your family is not prepared for what comes next, then you need to figure out what the next is. And it needs to be perfect for your family. It doesn't have to be what you see on TV. That's somebody else's next. Your next is maybe just getting through the next week, or the next season, or the next school year, or the next whatever. So I think that I always wanted to go quick, and just know that he's going to be okay. He's never going to die. He's never going to get sick again. I'm never going to die. He's going to be well taken care of. I'm going to come back as a ghost and I'm just going to sit next to him the whole time and I'm just going to make sure he's okay. Whatever it is that you're thinking, it does not matter, because I was telling Kimberly before the show, that's not what they're thinking about. Whether your child is the highest of learners to a person who is not learning up to their gestational age, they are not as worried about those things. They might have anxieties that worry about their future, but that makes that your family's different situation. So if that's something your child's worried about, that they are, always sick, or then that's that. If somebody has ADHD and they're worried about the next day how they're going to get to focus at work, then that's your next thing to help them with. For me, my son has no idea that his future is in the hands of whether the state or anybody else. So he's just sitting in there worried about if his next SpongeBob episode is going to come on and it's going to be the one that he wants. So I think that, like, you just have to take it for what you think comes next. Don't think about 5 years from now. Think about next season. Think about the summer. Are we going to be able to go to the beach? Think about the winter. Are we going to be able to, get him to a new school? Is whatever it is that your family's going through is what you should be thinking about, right? We say live in the moment, live in the present. The present is a gift. That is a present to live in the present, right? That's why they call it a present. So living in the moment and in the present is going to be your biggest gift, and not worrying about what's next. That's what I can say.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is a question that I ask all of my participants, and that's in 1 to 2 words.
Okay.
What does invisible but powerful mean to you as a mom?
So what I wrote down, because I was prepared to answer this, because I have to be prepared. You can't spring things on me. So what I wrote down was a lot of different things, but the one that stuck out is unseen strength. So unseen strength is basically what autism is, right? You can't see what a person on the spectrum, or let me not say just autism, because we're talking about disabilities here, or abilities. You can't always see it from the outside, right? So an unseen strength is kind of getting to know the inner workings of anybody before you judge what they can and cannot do. And that goes for us as mothers too. You could look at a mother that has all her stuff together and she might be suffering the most. And then you could look at somebody who just looked like they rolled out of bed and didn't, but they just got more sleep than you. It's not that they're, not together. They just don't care if they're going to wear makeup, or they don't care if they, are looking their best, because they got more sleep and they're calm as a cucumber. But that person that looks like they're perfect is suffering inside. So I think, like, an unseen ability, and you're not going to know about somebody's unseen ability unless you listen and get to know that person. Don't assume that you've got it all figured out, because you don't, and I think that's kind of where, and then let it shine. Show everybody your superpower. And your superpower could be, I tell people at work, show me your superpower. Show me what you're capable of when you come and work for me. Don't worry about what that person can do well. Don't worry about what that person could do well. You might surprise me, like, of your superpower. Show me what that is, and that's what I'm going to think is fantastic. And don't tell me when the superpower is coming. I want to just all of a sudden be like, oh, you can sing? I didn't know you could sing, or something like that. Show me, and then I will work with you as somebody who cares for you to bring that superpower to fruition. And that's just all about asking for help,
So the words are unseen strength.
Right. Yeah. Unless you have a superpower of seeing through me or being able to read my mind, you're not going to know what my strengths are. Right. Yeah.
Nice. And it's interesting that you say that, because, with my son having the special needs, I can say his superpower is having the spiritual awareness, and he's able to see, not only able to read thoughts, but he's also able to see, I guess he calls it the aura.
Yeah, the aura, yeah.
Of individuals. And he told me that of all the people in the world, those that are on the spectrum are the most powerful. He sees that.
It's a great insight. Yeah. Because they don't have the same worries, right? They're not, you don't have all the toxicity that the world or the negative has done to you. You're unscathed by it because you
Yes.
don't know that it's as negative as it is. And people who carry that
Yes.
toxicity it's going to feel less positive. But somebody on the spectrum or who is, not necessarily aware of everything around them is going to exude a little bit more positivity, right? And so,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And that's what makes them the most powerful, because they're not affected by what the world how the world sees them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just being them. They will be them regardless.
Right.
And I just thought that was a great, an interesting perspective from his end.
Right. And I bet as a parent, here you are knowing that he's reading auras and knowing that he's taking other people's, emotions. And you're like, okay, before we walk into this room, it might feel intense. You might feel a lot of auras, right? So don't take everybody's aura in, right? You're going to be your mama bear nerves. And that's where my mind thinks it's like, if whoever in here is negative, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, right? And he's like, okay, I wasn't even thinking about auras right now. And you're like, just worry about the auras today.
Yeah, we us as mothers, we do we're so much more extra. Then they're like, look, Mom, you're just doing too much.
Like, that's not how it works. That's not how auras work, Mom. What's my aura right now, right? Let's hear. That's not how it works.
Right. So, Danielle, it's been a pleasure. For those who are watching and feel connected to your story, how can they reach out to you?
So I don't naturally talk about special needs. I am an advocate, but only when it's bestowed upon me, right? Like I'm not yet speaking. I mean, I hope that this in turn will allow me to speak more about it. I don't necessarily start off conversations with I am an entrepreneur in the special needs community, but if people wanted to follow, my social media is verified. It's very easy to get to. So on Instagram, it's she's no apostrophe S _ giving love. That's my Instagram. And then it's just Danielle Pizzone on Facebook. And, you can message me and, I'm a regular person, I told you. So it's not like you have to be, take a number and wait your turn. I'll probably get the message. And if I have time, and I'll get back to you. I am just like everybody else. And the reason that you and I found each other is I did some community help for a community, and your husband was like, I always see her talking about this, and that's just happenstance on how we met. So I think that, that's how you develop the relationship with me, is just kind of saying, hey, I saw you with Kimberly, or whatever the case may be, and that's how I can help you. And I'm willing to help, even if I could tell you exactly how I feel, even if I don't know what I'm talking about. We could talk about anything. We don't have to talk about autism. We could talk about whatever you're going through. I'm here to answer. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for taking the time out to meet with me and share your story. I'm sure that other mothers and other women will be inspired by hearing your story.
I hope so. They don't have to be inspired, but if they're curious, that's what I like to talk about. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks you.
If this conversation touched you, we invite you to join us right after this episode on Zoom live, where you can talk to Danielle and ask her any questions that we may not have addressed in this episode. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can never miss a moment of encouragement or inspirational messages. And to every mother who is watching right now, especially those who are walking this path, be encouraged. You are seen, you are valued, and you are definitely powerful. Until next time, continue to be blessed and a blessing.
Thank you for spending this time with us on the Invisible But Powerful Show. We'd love to connect with you beyond the show. Follow us on Facebook at Invisible But Powerful Ministries, on Instagram at IBP Ministries, and subscribe to our IBP Ministries YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Until next time, remember to uncover, unlock, and unleash the potential within you. Walk boldly in who and whose you are.